why should we study the Bhagavad Gita? Why should we read something that is in a language that is foreign to us? Nobody knows Sanskrit. Something that was written 5,000 years back. What is its relevance in modern life? Are you doing this just because you have been offered a course? Or is there something more that is motivating? Let's take an example. When Mark Zuckerberg went to Steve Jobs, they were friends, and asked him, I want to be as successful as you. What should I do? Steve Jobs did not say, join Harvard Business School or Wharton Business School. You know what he told him? Does anyone know? Correct. Excellent. He told him to go to an ashram in India. Now the point is, what is it that an ashram in India was going to give Mark Zuckerberg that the best universities in America did not give? Because I'm sure all of you, or at least some of you, are looking forward to going to America, going to England, going here, there, everywhere to study so that you become more successful. Correct? Do you ever consider studying the Bhagavad Gita to become more successful? No. I'm not talking about you. Generally. So this is the tragedy of life. The Bhagavad Gita has the formula for success that no other literature, no other course anywhere in the world offers. And yet we Indians want to send our children, our grandchildren, you yourself want to go where? To the West. So friends, just as Western science has as its subject the world, the Bhagavad Gita is also a science. The only difference is the subject is the mind, the human mind. And they have mastered it. They have found that every single human being is capable of perfection. Every one of you. When you go out of this session, you must go with this conviction that I have perfection within me. All I have to do is get the obstacles out of the way. There is a movie called The Legend of BHAGAVAD. Anyone has seen it? I would strongly recommend you watch it. It is not a Bollywood movie, it is a mainstream Hollywood movie made by Robert Redford. It's about a golfer in the 1930s who was brilliant at golf, but because of some personal issues, gave up golf and started drinking. Easy way out. You understand what I mean by drinking, na? Not nimbu pani. Then a competition was announced, and in those days there was bitter rivalry between the northern and southern states of America. So his people, he was from the south, went to him and said, you must play in this tournament because you are our only hope, we don't have anyone else. Now this fellow has been drinking so hard he can barely see the ball. But he agrees. And one night he's practicing his shots when Will Smith, the actor, black man, comes out of the darkness and offers to be his caddy. You understand golf, no? The golfer plays, the caddy carries the clubs around. So Will Smith is the guru. His name is BHAGAVAD. Does it ring a bell? Please feel free to answer. Even if you're wrong, it doesn't matter. Huh? Because one-way speaking is boring for you and even more boring for me. So, BHAGAVAD is Bhagavan. He is the Guru. I'm not imagining it. Robert Redford says that. And the golfer's name is Randolph Jr. He's called Arjuna for short. Any guesses? Arjuna. The movie is based on a book called Gita on the Green. How you can use the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita while playing golf. So the tournament starts. And as expected, this guy is playing badly. At one particular hole, he is confused. He doesn't know which club to play with. So he asks the caddy, which one do I play with? The caddy is so mad with this golfer. He says, pick any, it doesn't matter. You're playing so badly, it doesn't make a difference. But he calls him back and tells him something that I want you to remember. And that is, there's a perfect shot waiting out there. All you have to do is get yourself out of the way. This is the truth, friends. There is perfection lying in each one of you. All you have to do is get yourself out of the way. Get your selfishness out of the way. Get your foolishness out of the way. Get your small-mindedness out of the way. And espouse a larger cause, and by God, this perfection will come out. You take anyone who has excelled in life. Right now, Nadal, after 1 year, after more than 1 year, 4 years of not being able to play tennis because of injuries. Now he wants to come back and play in the French Open because that is his well-loved place. And his uncle, who was his coach earlier, says his legs are not the same as they were 10 years back. He's aged. But his mind doesn't know the difference. His mind is still the way it was 10 years back. Why? Because he loves tennis. He loves the tennis court. He is in love with the game. And this is it. If you find a cause that you love dearly, you are passionate about, then you defy aging and play in your 40s like the way you played in your 20s. And you students I'm talking about, you are at this wonderful stage, youth, where you have tremendous energy and vitality. I remember at your age, once there was a power breakdown, I ran up the stairs 10 stories, 10 floors. Now I can't do one flight of stairs. So you are at the stage where you can do anything. The whole world is open to you. Why aren't you achieving it? Because the obstacles are in the mind. That is why you need to study the Bhagavad Gita. It is the mind. Suppose I were to tell you that you can become the Prime Minister of the country. What will you say? Who, me? No. That no is the problem. That I can't is the problem. Once you expand your mind and you pick up a vision, like, have you seen the movie 12th Fail? Yes. This boy from a remote village in the Chambal district, the worst district in UP, dacoit infested district, where their ambition was only to open a shop somewhere, maybe sell cigarettes. That's it. And have one more room to their house. Limited goals. In that, this boy wants to achieve something. So he goes to the police officer and says, what must I do to become like you? He's driving the jeep. At that time he's asking him. He says, cheating band karna hoga. One sentence. Cheating band karna hoga. And he picks that up. And when all the other students, including the teachers and the professors, were cheating, the trustee of the organization was allowing them to cheat. At that time, this boy did not cheat and failed. But that failure was the cause of his success. And the following year, he passed, but 3rd division. and everyone else got first class. How? By cheating. So, but he had this vision of doing something with himself. And finally, when he got through at the 4th attempt, in the interview, he almost didn't make it because he didn't speak English. And they looked down on people who spoke Hindi. And the lady, one of the interviewers, asked him, "What if you don't pass?" He said, "That doesn't matter. My goal is not to become an IPS officer. My goal is to serve the nation. If I don't pass, I'll go back to my village. I'll teach the children. I will help them grow." This is it. So some goal you must have in mind. What are you living for? What were you born for? Ask anyone what, even parents do that. They tell children, do well in school. Why? So that you get admission into a good college. Do well there. Why? So that you may get a good job. Why? So that you may earn a lot of money. Finished. That is the end of ambition. You were not born to make money, please. I am not against money. You were born to achieve merit in your life. And once you achieve merit, money will come to you. You don't need to ask for money. Virat Kohli, Shubman Gill, Rohit Sharma, all these people came from ordinary families, right? Today they are earning in crores. But they only focused on playing the best cricket. They did not focus on making money. So will you. Whatever it is you are interested in. Your passion, that is the first thing that the Bhagavad Gita speaks of. Swadharma. Identify your Swadharma. Swadharma means every one of us is born with a talent, a gift, a unique something that we bring to the world. One person is born with, like Lata Mangeshkar was born with a talent in music, Virat Kohli for cricket, Nadal for tennis. What is your Swadharma? Identify that. Everyone was not born to become a doctor or engineer. Like in my family, when I was growing up, we were brainwashed into thinking either you become a doctor or an engineer or you're a failure. And I belong to the failure category. Because even though I got admission to a medical college, I chose not to be a doctor. I chose to follow my Swadharma, and I'm so glad I did it. Every morning I wake up excited, enthusiastic that I have one more day to work in the field of my Swadharma. Then, how will you feel if you are sitting in a car going from Mumbai to Pune and you know that the driver is drunk? Will you sit in the car? No. Then how do you feel comfortable living life without the use of the intellect, the head, buddhi? So this is another very important lesson that the Bhagavad Gita teaches us. That our inner personality consists of mind and intellect. Manas, buddhi. You've heard these terms? Manas, mind, is likes and dislikes. You like pizza, you don't like vegetables. You like this classmate, you don't like the other classmate. Why? No reason, just like, just dislike. Do you take decisions? Do you act driven by whims and fancies of the mind? Or do you think? Weigh the pros and cons, analyze, and then take decisions. On that lies your success or failure. Take examples. Maradona, you heard of him? Huh? Outstanding footballer. What did he do? Kill himself. Drugging, all kinds of things. Elvis Presley, I'm sure you all heard of him. Extraordinarily talented musician, killed himself with prescription drugs. I can go on and on. On the other hand, you have Sachin Tendulkar, excelled. What is the difference between a Maradona and a Tendulkar? Difference is the use of the intellect. You see that clearly, right? There are outstanding business people who commit crimes and end up in jail. And then there are people like the Tatas who make money to do service to society. So, where do you want to be? Do you want to be a Maradona? Do you want to be a Tendulkar? That you got to decide now. And every step of the way, use your intellect. Why is the intellect so important for us? Because we also have the choice of action. From birth you're making choices. And you also have the intellect to make the right choice. But the intellect needs to be developed. You don't even know the existence of the intellect. Most people don't know. And nowhere is it taught. In school you're not taught to develop the intellect. Universities don't teach this. Where are you going to learn? Parents function on whims and fancies. So what happens is, outstandingly talented people, extraordinarily gifted, intelligent people, because their intellect is not developed, they make the wrong choices, suffer in life. So to make the right choice, you need intellect. In the second chapter of the Gita, it says very emphatically, buddhi nashat pranashyati. If you lose your intellect, you get destroyed. And this choice is difficult because whoever created the world made it confusing for us. You know why? Because that which gives instant pleasure gives sorrow in the end. If you as a student waste your time hanging out with friends, not attending lectures, not studying, failing in exams, what is your future? You think you'll get a job? So what are you doing? For a few hours of pleasure, you're giving up a lifetime of happiness. On the other hand, I'm not saying you should become a bookworm. I'm not saying you should become a nerd. You can have fun and study. And this your intellect tells you. I was also a student at one time. I also wanted to go to the movies with friends, go to parties, go here, there, everywhere. And I did it. But I also studied. And that the intellect tells you. Next is, let's say you worked very hard, studied a lot, you mastered your subject, but you go to write the exam and you suddenly, the exam paper is in, question paper is in front of you, you get nervous, you blank out, you don't do as well as you would have. Have you experienced that? Why? So, in addition to studying, in addition to preparing for the exam, you need one very important quality, and that is a calm mind. If after preparing, in college, I was a science student, we had a classmate who was a wizard in maths. If we didn't understand something, we wouldn't go and ask the professor, we would ask her, and she would solve our problems for us. But in the final BSc exam, she failed, we did well. Why? She wanted to max the paper. One particular thing she was not sure of, she got nervous and messed up the whole paper. So, in any field, a batsman plays brilliantly till he hits the score of 90. At 90, what happens? The mind gets agitated. He can't see the ball coming. He plays wrongly, he gets out to an easy shot. Tennis, at match point, who wins is not necessarily the person who is more skilled. Who wins is the person who has a calmer mind. So, what disturbs the mind is the question. It's a very important question because all our minds are disturbed. What disturbs? Do you know? Any guesses? No?
Emotions.
Huh?
Emotions.
Anxiety.
Anxiety, emotions.
Yeah. Desire and ego. The moment you have a desire in your mind, as long as that desire is not fulfilled, mind is agitated. And these desires need to be controlled, directed properly. So the obstacles are within you, they are not outside. Don't say, I didn't pass my JEE, I didn't get into medical college. No one in the world can prevent you from achieving what you want to achieve, except yourself. So take responsibility for yourself. Don't sit there complaining. Don't complain about the educational system. The same educational system has produced geniuses. And the same educational system has created failures. So, 3 practices the Bhagavad Gita gives. And chapter 4 is part of one of them. 1, I'm not using technical terms because if I were to use technical terms, you'll say, oh, I know it. I am deliberately using simple terms so as to make you think. Now, when we act, we all act, right? A doctor practices medicine, a businessman does business, a salesman sells. Everybody's acting. Students study. With what attitude do we go out and work? Most of us work with the attitude of taking, grabbing. So ask anyone, what are you working for? My salary, my paycheck, profit. Bas, finished. Is there anyone who says, I'm working very hard to contribute to society, to give? And that is going to make a world of difference in your life. So, when anyone asks you, what is the Bhagavad Gita about? You should say, Bhagavad Gita is about giving, not taking. What does it do? It creates miracles in your life. Anyone who works with the attitude of giving, gains. The law is give, you gain, grab, you lose. If you don't believe me, take a look at science, school science that we learn, physics. An object, many of you are wearing blue, you're wearing a blue shirt. What makes it blue? You know? No. When white light falls on that object, what happens? White light consists of how many colors? 7. When white light falls on a blue object, that object absorbs all other colors except blue. Blue is the only color it does not have. This is physics. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Yet, when you look at it, you don't say it is violet, indigo, green, yellow, orange, red. What do you say? It is blue. How is it that the colors that it absorbs, it seems to lose? The only color it gives, it gains. That is life, friends. You give, you gain. So, let's take real life examples. You know Beats, they make headphones. Huh? That company was started by a musician called Dr. Dre. And he and his partner, two guys, started that company. And they went to Steve Jobs and said, "You are an amazing combination of a good technical head, technology, aesthetics, every Apple product is good looking, and a good business head. Look at the profits Apple makes. How do we get more people like you?" So Steve Jobs said, very simple, start a course in a university. So this is a true story. They started a course in Los Angeles, in the University of Southern California. But to start that course, each of them had to give a donation of $35 million. So total $70 million they gave to that university. The university started the course. I know a boy who has graduated from that. Within 4 months, Apple bought over Beats, and each of them got $1.2 billion. You calculate the return on their donation. This is what happens. Givers benefit the maximum. And you think of grabbing, you get impoverished that very moment. So, I'm not saying go give to all and sundry. Fix a goal and work to contribute to society. Work to add value to others. If you become a doctor, every patient you see, the doctor must think, how can I use my medical knowledge for the benefit of the patient? If you become an architect, you must think, how can I use my knowledge of architecture to serve the needs of my client? If you become a lawyer, you have a law school here, right? If you become a lawyer, you must think, how can I help my client win the case? Not how much money will I make. Then miracles start happening. Second is love. You know, everybody talks about love, but love is a very powerful tool that helps you become a better person. What do I mean by love? See, the problem is, all of us in our relationships, people who are closest to you, you have maximum conflict with. Is that not true? Husband, wife constantly fighting. Two best friends fight all the time. Two sisters fight, two brothers fight. So you must think, why is it that I have conflict? It is not because of the love. It is because your love is polluted by expectations, demands. You want the other person to cater to you. And when that does not happen, you get bitter, you get frustrated, and there is conflict. Even parents do that. Nowadays, I keep telling parents, parents expect their kids to be excellent in everything. What do they tell their children? You must be good in academics, you must be good in sport, you must be good in music, you must be good in drama. Hey, how is that possible? I tell the parents, after all, your child has your genes. Huh? Any of you, your parents tell you that, tell them, I have your genes, I can only perform up to you. You got 3rd division, if I do slightly better than that, be happy. I'm not suggesting that you should not do your best. What I'm saying is, the moment, see, your psychology is such, the moment somebody expects something of you, you feel like saying, go to hell. Is that not true? Huh? Don't expect. What does the Bhagavad Gita say? Love the person for what he or she is. Accept the person for what he or she is, with the faults, with the plus points. Just say, I love you for what you are. This is what dogs do, pet dogs. Is there anyone here who has a pet dog? Nobody. Your pet dog loves you whatever you do. The dog doesn't care whether you wear Adidas shoes or Bata shoes. The dog doesn't care whether you live in a 5-bedroom apartment or 1-bedroom apartment. The dog just loves you. That is called unconditional love. So what must you do? Not when the Gita speaks of detachment and you say, how can I be detached? It's not about physical removal. It is about removing selfishness from your relationships. Do you truly love the person you claim to love? Then, this love also must be guided by the intellect. Emotion without intellect is madness. Intellect without emotion, you become robotic, you're no longer a human being. Emotion plus intellect is wonderful. You know, there is a story about a Mahatma who goes through a village and the villagers go and complain to him, Swamiji, please help us, there is a snake that bites us all the time and regularly 1 or 2 people in the village die every month. So the Mahatma says, I'll see what I can do. As he's about to leave the village, the snake comes and pays homage to the sage. So he just tells him, why are you harassing the villagers unnecessarily? And walks away. He comes back after 1 month and sees that snake beaten black and blue, almost dying. He says, what happened to you? The snake says, it's all your prasad, Maharaj. He says, my prasad? What did I do? He said, you told me not to bite the villagers and they started beating me. So the Mahatma told him, you fool, I only told you not to bite. I did not say don't hiss. You understood? So you must have love for everyone. But you must also understand that there are people with different natures. There are good people, there are vicious people, there are terrorists, there are all kinds of people. You must love them equally. But your conduct with them has to be different. Your conduct must be determined by the intellect. Just as you may be an animal lover and you love all animals equally. But you have the luxury of picking up a pup and fondling it, showering your love on the pup. You can't do that with a tiger, however much you love the tiger. You can't go to the tiger and say, hey tiger, come give me a hug, I love you. You won't live to tell us the story. So, understand there are tigers among human beings. There are pups among human beings. There are leopards among human beings and there are cows among human beings. So you must assess the nature of the person and deal with the person accordingly. This is what Krishna did in the Bhagavad Gita. His advice to Arjuna was, don't hate the Kauravas. Because when you hate, it doesn't do any damage to the other person. But it kills you. It gives you stress. Don't hate, love them, but kill them if necessary. Kill, don't go around killing, please. Deal with the person according to the nature of the person. Then you will never have a problem. Otherwise you will say, I loved my friends and I got taken for one big ride. And the third is very important. You must understand that everything in life is impermanent, passing, ephemeral, nothing lasts. Because the nature of the world is, it's a mix of pairs of opposites. Pleasure and pain, life and death, honor and dishonor, all this goes on. Then it is constantly changing. And this change is unpredictable. We've been through that, right? 2 years back in 2019, who would have imagined that COVID would hold the whole world to ransom for so many years? You all had online courses, right? You didn't know. This is it. So what must you do in life? Interact with the world, enjoy the world by all means, but never forget that it will go. The best and worst of things go. If you want permanence, there is only one way. Like Dhruva. You heard of Dhruva? Dhruva was a prince, a little child, the son of a king. And he was sitting on his father's lap, enjoying the company of the father, when the stepmother came and threw him out and put her son on the king's lap because she wanted her son to be the future king. So he went crying to his mother. The mother, in her wisdom, did not say a single thing against the stepmother. She only said, "This is life, son. Sometimes you are happy, sometimes you are unhappy, sometimes you get what you want, other times you don't get what you want." So Dhruva asked the mother, "I don't want this. Sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy. I want only happiness. Where will I get it?" She said, "Only when you get to God." His next question was, "Where is God?" Mother said, "Inside you." So off he went and started meditating. And he was on the verge of realization when Vishnu appeared before him and said, "I'm very pleased with your efforts, Dhruva. You wanted me, I'm here before you. Open your eyes." Dhruva said, "My mother told me that God is inside. If you're God, come inside." And that was the last test he was. So, true happiness, permanent happiness, is inside you. What you get outside in the world is temporary. Everything is temporary. Friends are temporary. Huh? Don't you know that? If it suits a friend, she will say, "You're her friend." If it doesn't suit her, she'll behave as if you didn't exist. So, be friends, but don't depend. Don't depend on anyone in the world, because it will go and will leave you heartbroken. So now, the Bhagavad Gita was given by Krishna to Arjuna in the middle of a battlefield. This entire scenario represents what is happening inside us. It's an external depiction of an internal phenomenon. We all have good tendencies in us. We all want to work hard, we want to love people, we don't want to hate people, we want to be good. But the good tendencies in us are very few. Pandavas were only 5. The bad tendencies are more in number. Something once makes you want to go through the red light. Something once makes you want to bunk college. And all these negative tendencies are larger in number. But your positive tendencies gain victory over the negatives. Pandavas gained victory over the Kauravas when they surrendered to Krishna. Krishna represents the spirit in you, that God principle in you, a higher goal. So when you surrender to something higher, you gain the strength to gain victory over your own negativity. This is the Mahabharata going on inside us. It didn't happen 5,000 years ago. It did. But it's also happening inside us. So Krishna's message to Arjuna was given in the middle of the Mahabharata. While you are fighting, suddenly the voice of the higher comes to you. That is your conscience speaking. And if you follow your conscience, you become victorious. So, the first chapter of the Gita is Arjuna's dilemma. He is overwhelmed by emotion because Arjuna tells Krishna to drive him between the two armies so that he can assess the strength of the enemy. But when he's there, he doesn't see warriors. He doesn't use his intellect. His mind starts functioning. He sees, "Arey, here is my cousin. Here is a brother. Here is a brother-in-law." And then he sees Bhishma, Pitamaha, the patriarch of the family who gave up the kingdom that these guys were fighting. He sees Dronacharya, his guru. And in those days, they had immense respect for the guru. And he got weak-kneed. Emotion overwhelmed him. He put down his bow and arrow and told Krishna, "I will not fight." Krishna started with Arjuna then. And if you recite the Bhagavad Gita, it will take all of 3 hours. So Krishna spoke to Arjuna for 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours. In that time, the power of his message was such that he got Arjuna to get up and say, "Nashto moha smritir labdha tvat prasadat mayachita." My delusion has gone, Krishna, and it's your prasad. It's your grace. I know what to do and I will do it. He fought the war and won it. And so will all of us win if we just listen to the message of the Bhagavad Gita. This is a universal message because it's a science. It is a set of laws that are applicable to all human beings at all periods of time, anywhere in the world, whether you accept it or not. And this collection of laws is called Sanatana Dharma. So, any fool who says he doesn't believe in Sanatana Dharma is like us saying, "I don't believe in law of gravity." Too bad. Whoever discovered law of gravity doesn't want you to believe in it. But if you defy the law of gravity, you will go hurtling down at 32 feet per second to your death. Same thing with Sanatana Dharma. So, it's universal. And throughout, he says, Yaha. Yaha means whoever you are. There are no qualifications. Nowhere does he say that you have to be an Indian, a Hindu, a Brahmin, nothing. Whoever you are, anywhere in the world, you follow this, you will excel. The other thing he says is, surrender to me. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam prajat. Give up all dharmas and surrender to me. What is the me? He is not talking about Krishna's personality. Nowhere does he talk about that. Even in the 12th chapter, when he gives qualities, 35 qualities of a devotee, bhakta, he doesn't say you have to worship Krishna or Shiva or Vishnu. Nothing. Very first quality, he says, one who hates no being. You must appreciate, when I was young at your age and I was exposed to the Bhagavad Gita, that really impressed me. That nowhere is it a limited, restricted thing that you must owe allegiance only to me and you will go to heaven, otherwise you will go to hell. No such thing. One who hates no being means he doesn't say you must follow Krishna, that you must love Krishna. But living beings you must not hate. So the universal message to all human beings. And it has the power to transform you from an ordinary person to an extraordinary person. Ordinary mortal to an extraordinary immortal. From an ordinary Atma to an extraordinary Mahatma. How do you do that? Just study the Bhagavad Gita. One idea in these two sessions that we have if you go home with one concept, one idea, one thought, that has the power to change your life. Why am I saying this? I have experienced it myself. When I was your age, I read Swami Ramatirtha. Again, I would strongly recommend you get his books. I have nothing to do with him. He was born in 1873 and he moved on at the age of 32. He didn't write a single book, he didn't leave anything. But after him, and he had only 2 disciples, one Swami Narayana and one Sardarji in Tokyo. That Swami Narayana took notes written by his students in various parts of the world and compiled it as a set of volumes in Woods of God Realization. So I used to read his books. And I read one statement which changed my life. That was, if you're not happy as you are, where you are, you will never be happy. That was like pulling the carpet from under my feet. Because we are all trying to be happy. We say, if you are single, you say, how can I be happy single? I must be married, I need a partner. If not married, I need a partner. Those who have partners, ask them, they say, how can I be happy with this partner? Those who are poor say, how can I be happy poor? And you think the rich are happy. Huh? Ask me, I know. The richest guys in the country are terribly unhappy. They say, get rid of this one problem and then I'll be happy. So what Swami Ramatirtha says is, if you're not happy as you are, whatever be your condition, whatever be your state, as you are, where you are, don't say I'll be happy in America. If you're not happy here and now, you will never be happy. So learn the art of being happy here and now. Now, that's what I'm saying. One idea can change your life. One concept. So then, Krishna listens to Arjuna going on and on. For one chapter of the Gita, we have lost because of Arjuna's madness. The first chapter is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Second chapter, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and says, please help me, I am your disciple, teach me. When he surrenders to Krishna, then Krishna starts speaking. So that is the first lesson for us. Don't go giving advice unless it is asked for. We are very nice giving lectures to people. Huh? But when the problem comes to us, we collapse. Keep quiet. That is the first lesson. And Krishna was an avatar Purusha. He had all the knowledge in the world. He kept quiet. We know nothing and we speak. Then he gives him the highest knowledge. One of the first things that Krishna tells Arjuna is, you're mourning for those you should not grieve for. There is no place for grief in life. And Krishna's life was like that. He met with so many challenges in his life, but never was he depressed. Never was he pulling a long face. Never do you see Krishna crying. Huh? You see pictures of Krishna smiling, laughing, cheerful, mischievous, fun-loving. This is what you will be if you learn the principles of the Gita. Huh? You will wake up. How do you wake up today? How did you wake up today? You woke up today and said, oh God, I have to go to college. Huh? How will you wake up? Wake up every day saying, I am excited because I have one more day to just live life. To go to college. My grandmother was not sent to school. So in school, when I used to complain, oh God, I have to go to school, she would say, you don't know how lucky you are. That you have school to go to, you can get educated. She got herself educated, you know how? She used to stand behind the door when the tuition master came to teach her elder brother. That's how she learned. She learned Kannada, she learnt Marathi, she learnt Sanskrit, she learnt classical music, all this indirectly. Because in those days we had this stupid concept that girls should not be educated. So, particularly the girls, if you feel, oh God, I have to go to college, thank your stars that you have the opportunity to educate yourself. My grandmother did not have that. So, the other thing that the Gita prescribes is happiness formula. Do you know where happiness is? All of us are searching for happiness, right? Do you know where it lies? Have you got it? No. Happiness formula. If you forget everything else that I have spoken about, don't forget this. Happiness equals, and if you have a piece of paper, write it, number of desires fulfilled divided by number of desires harbored, entertained. You got it? So happiness equals number of desires you fulfill divided by number of desires you have. So using this is a mathematical formula. If you want to increase your happiness, what must you do? Huh? I can't hear.
Reduce the desire.
Or either increase the numerator, increase the number of desires you fulfill, or you're right, reduce the denominator, the number of desires you have. What are we all doing all over the world? Where is our focus? Numerator. Now you have fulfilled many desires, have you not? Has your happiness increased? No. Have you asked yourself, why is it that my happiness is not increasing in spite of numerator going up? No. That's a problem we don't think. Because without your realizing it, the denominator also goes up. Take an example. You go to the mall to buy a pair of shoes. You are an active person. You go for a run every day. Your shoes have got old. Sole has gone. S-O-L-E, not S-O-U-L. And you go to the mall to buy shoes. You enter the mall and somebody says, sample this. This is a limited edition perfume. Huh? You know what limited edition? For a short while. So you sample it and say, nice. You go a little further, you see the latest iPhone on display. You say, I wanted this. Then your third shop, you see a nice shirt that you have always wanted to buy. Fortunately for you, fourth shop is a shoe shop. You buy shoes, you come out. What have you done with reference to the formula? Fulfilled one desire, your numerator has gone up by 1. What's happened to the denominator? 3. Which 3? Perfume, iPhone, shirt. That is why it's called the mall. What is the spelling of mall? Not M-A-L-L. M-A-U-L. It malls you. You go to fulfill one desire, you come back with 10. That is the problem. So, there is a poem. I'm going to end this session with talking to you about this poem called The Pineapple and the Bee. So, the poet sees a bee trying to get through to a pineapple pudding, freshly baked pineapple pudding, which has a glass cover. The glass cover is there to prevent insects from getting to it. So the bee tries to get through to the pineapple pudding and fails. The poet sees the bee go away and he is addressing the bee. He says, methinks I say, in thee I find the sin and madness of mankind. To joys forbidden man aspires, consumes his soul with vain desires. Folly is the spring of his pursuit. Foolishness is the starting point of all your pursuit. And disappointment all the fruit. He gives two examples. While Cynthia ogles as she passes, the nymph between two chariot glasses. There's a young man standing by the roadside and Alia Bhatt passes by. She is the pineapple and he the silly, unsuccessful bee. Then a girl goes shopping. The maid who views with pensive air the show glass fraught with glittering ware, sees watches, trinkets, rings and lockets, but sighs and thought of empty pockets. She's got no money. This is before credit cards came. Like thine, like the bees, her appetite is keen, but the cruel glass between. There's always that glass standing between you and the object of desire. Then the poet concludes, our dear delights are often such, exposed to view but not to touch. The sight our foolish heart inflames, we long for pineapples in frames. So whether it is the man wanting Alia Bhatt or the girl wanting the jewelry and the watches. Then he says there are three kinds of people. With hopeless wish, what looks and lingers. The tamasic person, this I'm going to talk about in the next session. Lazy guy, he doesn't do anything, he just looks and his tongue is hanging out. One breaks the glass and cuts his fingers. The rajasic person, selfish person, works but gets only stress. He gets injured, he doesn't get. Only the sattvic person gets. But they whom truth and wisdom lead can gather honey from a weed. Where is the honey? Not in the weed. It's inside you. But he is happy with anything. And he gets everything. So friends, we come to the end of this session. I laid the background for chapter 4. And in the next session, we'll talk about chapter 4 in detail, about what chapter 4 talks about. Okay? Fourth chapter, I spoke about the second chapter. The third chapter is on karma yoga. How you can perform actions in the world dedicated to a higher ideal. And that is called yajna. This word, there are very few Sanskrit words that have no equivalent in any other language. And yajna is one such. It is the ability to work in a spirit of service and sacrifice for a higher cause. And the core of the karma yoga is this. So in verse 10, he dramatizes it and says, when the Creator created the human being was created saha yajna, means along with the capacity to sacrifice, which no other creature has. Nobody can sacrifice like the way we can. And he says, with this, may you prosper. What does it mean? Without it, it is impossible to prosper. And all of us are trying to prosper without it. Then he says, may this be the Kamadhenu of all your endeavors. You know who Kamadhenu was? A mythological cow supposed to reside in heaven, the sage Vasishtha's cow, that has the capacity of fulfilling all your desires. Now don't go looking for Kamadhenu. What does he say here? Sacrifice is Kamadhenu. It is so true. You work for a higher cause, you develop merit, you contribute to society, and you get it back. All your desires get fulfilled. If you don't believe, you see, the Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta is an experimental science. You need to try it out. Then you see the wonders that happen. So, sacrifice. Now, how often to sacrifice? Because The law is as you think, so you become. Not as you do. You can do anything. But it's where your mind is, where your thoughts are that matter. Now, in the spiritual path, you have to think of God all the time. Only then you become God. Now you're thinking of what? Body all the time, isn't it? How do I look? Is my hair all right? Are my clothes all right? Is my makeup all right? Arey baapre, the amount of time people spend before the mirror is mind-boggling. I have nothing against it. Of course you must look good. But go beyond the body. What kind of emotions do you have? Are you hateful? Are you irritable? Are you violent? Or are you loving? Are you affectionate? Are you gentle? That makes a difference. And what is your intellect like? Are you a clear thinker or are you a confused, muddled thinker? But all these are matter. Body, mind, intellect is matter. Spirit, that God principle in you, is that which gives life to you. Body, mind, intellect by themselves, lifeless. But you can't capture spirit. You can't see, hear, smell. You can't feel it with your emotions. You can't conceive it with your intellect. So you ignore it at your peril. Because the spirit is the most powerful entity. So the fourth chapter gives us a way out. Way out means you can participate in the world, you can act in the world, you can enjoy the world, you can do what you want in the world, provided your thought is on the high. How do you do that? Take examples from real life. When you drive, is there anyone here who drives a car or a bike? Oh, okay. Take any driver. When you first learn driving, you break out into a sweat. If your person next to you talks, you can't concentrate on two things at the same time. So you stop the car and say, what were you saying? The same lady, once she becomes an expert driver, talks non-stop while she's driving. So you talk, you can adjust the music, you can change the music, adjust the air conditioning, all that you do. But never do you let your attention off the road. Isn't it? That's what a good driver does. Similarly in life, you have the capacity to enjoy life, eat food, listen to music, interact with friends, do whatever you want, enjoy. But maintain the thought of the higher at all times. And the fourth chapter is about that. So I'm just giving you a jhalak of the fourth chapter because it's not very easy to understand. The first thing he says is Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Two very important verses, very famous verses. What he says is, whenever dharma, righteousness, goes down and unrighteousness takes over, then I come again and again, yuge. So don't go around looking for Krishna. That's not what he's saying. What he means is, a spiritually evolved person will come, a leader will come, who will just tilt the balance towards the good. You can't eliminate the bad. Right under Ram's nose, right under Krishna's nose, all kinds of things happen. So you can't eliminate. But you can only shift the balance, the power towards good. What is the learning for us? We may not be Mahatmas, we may not be avatars, but we also have the capacity to shift the balance towards the good. Huh? How can you do that? You uphold what is right in your own way and you influence the few people around you. Let's say we talked about cheating. I'd spoken to one student. I said, I'm not talking about being goody-goody. You can cheat, you can do what you like. But you must think, when you cheat, what happens? You really don't know the subject, isn't it? You are copying from someone else who has done the hard work. And you're letting go of this wonderful opportunity, your student life, to learn. Because later on in life, you cannot learn. You'll be too busy working, you'll have a family, you'll have obligations, you'll have this, that and the other. However much you want to learn, you cannot learn. This is the most precious opportunity you have to learn. So suppose you say, it doesn't matter if I fail, but I will not cheat. Like that 12th fail guy. That gives you strength. That strength you can never get by cheating. Not just that. You cheat and pass an exam now. All your life you will keep cheating. And somewhere you will get caught. Like you find this Indian who was so successful, IIT, brilliant man. He got caught, put in a prison in America for years. Even when he was let out, he had this thing, tracker on his ankle, like an animal, where the security forces knew exactly where he was going. Would you like to life like that? So, you uphold righteousness and the few people around you look up to you. They think, "Arey, this one didn't cheat. So maybe that's the right thing to do. This one didn't do some wrong. Maybe that's the right way to live." So you influence, you become an influencer. Not for social media, even social media. Today there are influencers because they follow fashion, they do this, that and the other. You can become an influencer because you uphold righteousness. Then he gives the connection between Atman, God, spirit and matter. Because the question might arise in you. You say that God principle functions in all of us. Then how does a criminal function? How does a thief function? God supports that? You might have that question. So to which he says, the role of the spirit in us is like that of electricity in a gadget. Electricity in a heater is not heated. Electricity in a refrigerator is not cooled. But without electricity, the heater can't work, the geyser can't work, the refrigerator can't work. So, similarly, Atman, the spirit, enables you to act. But the quality of your action is determined by your nature, not by the spirit. Spirit is there equally in all of us. Spirit is like fuel in a car. It enables the car, the machinery to function. But whether you arrive at your destination safely or you have an accident depends on the driver of the car. So you can't blame fuel for accident. Similarly, you can't blame spirit for a terrorist act, or you can't appreciate spirit for a noble act. It's neutral. So this is where you learn to be objective, not get affected by what's happening around. Then the formula is human being minus desire equals God. So you want to become God, you want to improve yourself, you have to do 3 things with desire. Number 1, manage desire with your intellect. What do we mean by that? Suppose you get a desire, I want to buy a Mercedes car. It's not a criminal desire. But ask, can I afford it? No. Is it in line with my life now? No. Can I do without it? Yes. What happens? You are pressing the delete button on this desire. it no longer bothers you. But if you don't do this, then you get stuck with that desire. Unnecessary agitation in your mind. Second, reduce your desires by picking up a higher desire. What do I mean by this? You know, a student decides to go to an American university to do a PhD. I've seen a young girl, one of my students. She was living in the lap of luxury here. She had her friends, her family, very comfortable life. She had to go to Purdue University, which is in the Midwest. Not a very pleasant environment. She had to live by herself in a small place, share an apartment with another girl, and cook for herself, wash her own clothes, do all her own work. But she did it because it was the higher desire, intellectual desire, for which she readily gave up emotional and physical desires. So this is what I mean when I say pick up a higher desire. A child has thousands of desires for toys. So did you as a child. Did you at any time give up the desire for toys? No. What happened? Do you have the desire for toys now? I hope not. What happened? You just grew to more exciting things. You grew into a teenager, and when you tasted the joys of teenage life, what happened? Toys dropped. So this is what I mean when you pick up higher desires, they're more fulfilling. And finally, eliminate desire when you get to the state of Godhood, infinite happiness. So, verse 11 talks about this universality. Everyone is accepted, including agnostics, atheists, people who denounce religion are also accepted. Because in verse 11, Krishna says, I fulfill everybody's desires. I accept everybody. Even if you say I hate Krishna, he still accepts us. Why? Because ultimately we want happiness. The method we follow is different. Different people follow different methods. But the end goal is happiness, which is self-realization or the state of Godhood. Then comes the 12 yajnas. So we saw yajna is sacrifice. And we also saw that we have to think of spirit all the time. How do you do that? So they analyzed our life. Our life's transactions consist of 3 things. One is receipt of stimuli from the world. Right now you're listening, you're seeing. The world enters us through our 5 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin. Having entered us, they are transmitted to the sense center in the mind. So at the level of the mind and intellect, there is a reaction between the stimulus that has entered you and the desires of your mind. So you're all listening to the same word, same verse, same chapter. But the reaction is different in different people. One person says, boring. I don't ever want to come here again. Another person says, interesting. Third person says, oh, this is very exciting. I must study the Bhagavad Gita more. So the reaction is different in different people to the same stimulus because your desires are different. And based on the reaction, the response, action is different. So in the 4th chapter, what they've done is these 3 transactions, they have further divided into 12 and they call it the 12 yajnas. So all they are doing is dividing our life's transactions into 12 activities and helping us to think of God, Atman, that enables us to do all this. So, there are two types of goals that you can have. I'm enumerating the 12 yajnas. The first is limited goal. It may be beyond you, unselfish, but it is still worldly. Like you're working for the environment. There are lots of people who are doing good work for the environment. You know, there was a lawyer who used to go to Warsaw Beach every Sunday morning. Have you heard of him? Ah. And he suddenly realized that it was dirty. So the next Sunday he came with gloves and picked up the dirt that you and I had thrown there. And a few people, youngsters, joined him and it became a movement. Before long they had cleaned up Warsaw Beach. So there are people who work for things like this. There are people who work for animal well-being. There are people who work for various things. Education of children. So on and so forth. That is limited ideal. And the absolute second yajna is absolute ideal. Absolute is you're not interested in the world, you just want to get to God. Third starts with perception. So when you see, hear, they talk about hearing. Because seeing you can block. You shut your eyes, you can't see. Hearing is difficult to block. So you hear. Now remember one thing. In the 12 yajnas, there are two things. One is the offering. Do you remember the Havan? You witnessed Havan? Huh? So in the Havan Kund, which is just a brick wall trough, they start a fire while priests are chanting mantras. And the participants, suppose there is a Havan here, all of us come, form a queue, and we make an offering, put ahuti into the fire. Ahuti is usually ghee or grain or pieces of wood, inflammable material. So when you put the offering into the fire, what happens? There is a kindling, the fire shoots up. And the belief is that Agni, fire god, has been propitiated and is blessing the participants. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, he has internalized the yajna. So you don't have to start a fire. You don't have to start the ritual. Within us, while all this is happening, in every one of the yajnas, there is an offering and a kindling. So in perception, what is the offering? The stimulus enters you. When that dies, the sound enters you. When that dies, hearing is kindled. You hear. So you consider it as a yajna going on. It's a reminder of God. God enables you to hear. So your attention goes to that power which enables you to hear, not on what you're hearing. Because you have no control over what you hear. Isn't it? You might hear pleasant things, music. You might hear noise. You might hear compliments. Somebody might compliment you. Somebody might insult you. You have no control over that. But when your attention shifts to that which enables me to hear, you are under control. You are in control of what's happening in your mind. So even when someone insults you, you choose to switch on to Atman. This is a very useful tip. I say this to all married people, particularly. You go home, you have no control over whether the wife or the husband is going to be in a good mood or a bad mood. Whether your partner will speak nicely to you or will shout at you. But if you switch on to this, you are in bliss all the time. The louder the person shouts at you, even parents or siblings, brother, sister, The greater is the reminder of God for you. But don't tell the person that. Don't smile, because then he'll get mad with you. Just keep quiet. Within you, you're thinking of that which enables you. So, yajna is going on. Next, sense control. So, what is sense control? You decide to control what is coming to you. So, the offering is hearing, sense control. The kindling is control. Like you decide to control what you hear, how much you hear. You know? You don't have to listen to music 24 hours a day. You decide when you're going to hear. So that's sense control. And in that, you have to exercise multiple controls. Like you decide to stop scrolling on your phone. That's a choice you have. But you may eat excessively, overeat. So you have to consciously control all your interactions. Then the next is self-restraint, where when you have the goal of realization, getting to God as the goal, you automatically control everything. So there is one control. Otherwise, every little thing you have to keep controlling. Then comes, so this is receipt of stimuli. Then comes response, action. And he talks only about giving because Krishna can't relate to taking. What can you give? There are 4 things there, 4 types of giving. One is dravya yajna, means you give money. You find a poor person who doesn't have food to eat, you give money or you give food, grain. So what is happening? The offering is your wealth and the recipient's wealth is kindled. But even when you're doing that, you're thinking of God because yajna is going on. What else can you give? You can give your physical effort. Let's say your friend had fallen ill and missed 5 days of college. So you don't give money there, you actually help. You give your notes, you explain what was taught to your friend. So you're giving your effort. Then comes yoga yajna, you're giving your emotions and your knowledge. Somebody can't understand a particular subject, you teach that subject to the person. Or let's say a friend has lost a family member, you give emotional solace to the person. So there what is happening? Your emotional, what you're offering is your emotional and intellectual abilities, and the other person gets emotional solace or knowledge. And the last is Svadhyaya Jnana Yajna, means you spend time at your own spiritual evolution. Then what are you giving? You're giving spirit to people. That's the highest. Because otherwise it doesn't make sense. It seems very selfish that you are studying the Bhagavad Gita to become a better person. How does that help others? What you give is spirit. And you don't give only spirit, you give everything else also. Then he talks about breathing. You know, you may not act, you may be just sitting, but you're breathing, you can't stop breathing. When you're breathing, you breathe in, inhale. When inhalation is complete, exhalation is kindled. So you're offering inhalation, and what is being kindled is exhalation. So even when you're sitting just breathing, you can think of God. No? And likewise, you exhale. When exhalation is complete, inhalation is kindled. Then the next is pranayama. When you control the inhalation and the exhalation, there are different types of pranayama. Then what happens? You create internal energy, vitality, dynamism within you. But think of God in every one of these. Consider it as a yajna happening. There is an offering and there is a kindling. This is little subtle, little difficult. That's why I prepared the ground in the last session before coming here. And the last is, this internal energy that you have generated, you offer to external activity, to the world. So this is the offering, your energy is being offered and the world's well-being is kindled. So you complete the entire cycle, starting with perception, ending with action. Next, very important, he gives the qualities of a student and the qualifications of a guru, teacher. What makes for a good student? See, this is important because the teaching being the same, you might have a great teacher, a wonderful professor, but if you don't have the qualities of a student, you don't learn anything. The very first quality is pranipata, surrender. Not just in formal teaching. Anywhere you go in life, you must have the basic humility to accept that I don't know. You fall ill, you go to a doctor, you must go with this feeling, this humility that I don't know how to cure myself, and I believe here is a person who has gone through the medical course, who has the wherewithal to cure me. Pranipata, surrender. But this faith must not be blind. Where you don't understand, question. Prashna, second quality. Pranipata, surrender. Prashna, question. Like the doctor gives a prescription or doctor says you need surgery. If you don't understand, you must ask, why do I need surgery? Can I not do it some other way? Can I not cure myself some other way? And then when you benefit from the interaction, benefit from the knowledge, very important, seva. You must have this attitude of service. Very important is you must maintain this attitude of gratitude towards all your teachers, towards the school that you went to, the college that you went to. You're ready to help. That's why every school, every college has an alumni association. Not only towards the teacher, towards everyone in society, you must have this service-mindedness, seva bhav. Not for the other person, not that because the others need your service. Nobody needs your service. For you, for your growth. Then, qualifications of a guru. The person must be established in the knowledge, know the knowledge thoroughly, and have the communication skills. Excuse me. It's very difficult to have both. There are people who have authority on their subject, but they are bad teachers. And then there are good teachers who may not know the subject that well. Between the two, it's better to have a good teacher. So, if you want to be a teacher, you must make sure you have both qualities. Then, he says, all yajnas lead to wisdom. So when you work in a spirit of service and sacrifice, your ignorance is removed, you gain the knowledge, you become wise, you evolve spiritually, and you get everything. If you don't sacrifice, you will neither get success, you won't be happy, and you won't grow to your potential. So, what do you learn from this? Selfishness is not an option. If you are selfish in life, you will not be successful. Happiness is out of the question. And spiritual growth is impossible.
It's a disease.
Selfishness is a disease. Correct. So that must be rooted out of your system. Now what you need to understand is this, what we've discussed now for these 2 sessions, is not taught anywhere. Parents don't teach because they don't know themselves. Schools don't teach, they are only interested in marks. They are interested, and more so you are interested in marks. Universities only teach subjects. So where are you going to learn this? Fortunately for you, your college, your university, your teaching institution is teaching you this. And the university or the government has also made it possible for you to learn. So my appeal to you is, this is not the end of your learning of the Bhagavad Gita. This is only the beginning. Pursue it. Learning, like Shankaracharya said, Bhagavad Gita kinchitadhira, just a little bit. And for the benefit of all of you, we have weekly webinars online which are free. All you have to do is register with us. There's a books counter outside. Give your phone number and your email ID, and we will send you the link to listen to it. And if you're not free on Saturday evening, 6 to 7 p.m., which is live, you can watch the recording in the following week at any time at your convenience. So we cover the entire Bhagavad Gita there. We have communities. You just have to scan the QR code and you will be included in our Mumbai community. And we will keep in touch with you. In the past, people had to go to the Himalayas to gain this knowledge. Through the communities, we bring the Himalayas in the palm of your hand, on your mobile phone. So we will send you stories, anecdotes, inspiring thoughts, so that you keep in touch with the subject. And I am also in Mumbai, so anytime you want me, I am happy to come. I am committed to the young. I will be very happy to take more sessions for you. So, if you have the will, thank you.